Hi, I'm Cali, sleep coach here at Empower Sleep, and today I'd like to talk about cognitive restructuring, which is a technique within CBT-I or cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And I'm going to talk about what it is, how it helps, and why it's a very important tool to help those with insomnia. Let's dive in. So, the first thing I want to talk about is why thoughts matter when it comes to sleep. Now, you may have had an issue or a situation or a night where you wake up, you get frustrated that you're not sleeping, you kind of get mad at yourself. Maybe you say, "Okay, if I fall asleep now, I get 2 more hours of sleep. Hurry up, body. Let's go to bed." And those can be detrimental in the long run when it does come to insomnia. And one of the reasons is because sleep is controlled by the brain and nervous system. And that's, of course, where our thoughts come from, too. And worry, frustration, anxiety, they can all activate the body's fight or flight response. And that can release things like stress hormones, cortisol, or adrenaline. And those can absolutely interfere with falling back to sleep or staying asleep in the middle of the night. So, what is cognitive restructuring? It's a technique used to identify and change unhelpful thoughts around sleep. Now, the goal is to reduce the fear, the pressure, and the mental arousal that can happen at night. So let's talk about what some of the most common unhelpful thoughts might be. An example is, if I don't sleep for 8 hours, tomorrow is going to be ruined. Or you may think, gosh, something is wrong with me. Why can't I sleep? Or you may think, I just have to try harder. I have to try harder to fall asleep. Or if I don't sleep well, I'm going to perform bad at work tomorrow and I might even get fired. Now, some of these things, when we talk about them during the day, they may seem silly, but at night, when you're lying awake in bed and you're frustrated, these sort of thoughts tend to happen. And the first step is recognizing that these may be unhelpful thoughts and they may not be helping you fall back to sleep in a timely manner. So how do these thoughts hurt sleep? So again, they can increase anxiety, they can increase alertness, they keep the brain problem solving instead of resting and relaxing. And these thoughts over time and with consistency can teach the brain that nighttime is a threat or a stress and that we should be alert during that time. So, how cognitive restructuring works is, first of all, noticing the thought, noticing that you are having this thought, and question, is this thought accurate? Is it helpful? Is it useful during this time? And if the answer is no, replace it with a more balanced and realistic thought. So, for example, an unhelpful thought might be, if I wake up, I won't fall back to sleep. And a lot of times this is based on previous experiences, but we also don't know what's going to happen tonight. And by saying that, you can almost will it into existence. And so a more balanced thought might be, you know what, my body knows how to sleep. Even if it takes time, it will get there. Now, the result of this balanced thought is less pressure on the body to fall back to sleep. And less pressure means a calmer body, and a calmer body may equal better sleep. Another example, if I don't sleep well, I'll perform poorly at work and I might even get fired. Now, that sounds a little silly during the daytime. You may not get fired because you were sleeping poorly at night. But again, in the middle of the night, when you've been laying awake in bed, these thoughts can tend to happen. So again, the first thing to do is recognize that thought and ask, is this realistic? And a more balanced thought might be, well, I've slept poorly before and I've done well at work. I haven't been fired yet. Why would I assume that I'm going to get fired tomorrow if I sleep poorly? So again, you're just challenging that thought and you're kind of giving yourself a more balanced and realistic thought. And again, you're putting less pressure on your body to go back to sleep right here and now. And of course, less pressure equals a calmer body. A calmer body equals better sleep. So what does this look like in real life? The first thing I'd like to really invite you to do is when you wake up at night, try to stay calm instead of checking the clock and getting frustrated right off the bat. Try to stay calm, try to stay relaxed, In fact, one of the things I tell my patients to do is focus more on relaxation rather than sleep. Again, the more you force sleep to happen, the less likely it will. And even trying to let go of sleep thoughts altogether and just say, you know what? I'm asleep, I'm awake, I don't want to be, but I can still focus on relaxation and still be calm and relaxed. And that too can be beneficial, not just for the body, but with consistency. Again, we can retrain the body to think differently about nighttime. Another idea or kind of acceptance is to accept occasional bad nights. It's going to happen. Even good or normal sleepers have bad nights. And when a good or normal sleeper has a bad night, they tend not to panic. They don't worry too much about it. They say, I had a bad night. Tomorrow, I'll probably sleep pretty well. And that's a really good attitude to have, is occasionally bad nights happen. Sometimes they happen and we know why, sometimes we don't know why, but the more we get upset and frustrated about that bad night, the worse it can be going forward, because again, it can elicit a stress response and keep our body more alert during the nighttime hours. So, key takeaway: sleep does improve when fear and pressure decrease. Your thoughts can absolutely affect the sleep system, and cognitive restructuring helps to rebuild trust in sleep. Now, a final takeaway I'd like to mention is that when you do practice cognitive restructuring, it's likely not going to have an immediate effect. If you do these things tonight, you may not magically sleep better. But this works with consistency. The more often you are able to recognize and restructure some of those negative thoughts, the more the body will learn that nighttime is for rest and relaxation. And just like the body learned to associate nighttime with alertness or stress, it can relearn to associate the nighttime with rest and relaxation, with patience, time, and consistency. Thanks for joining me today about this topic, cognitive restructuring, and I hope that you join me again for another topic soon.